because I was 14 years old, actually the age of my daughter, and I was left literally at boarding school in Switzerland, a very fancy boarding school. Nobody came to pick me up. I really did not know what I was going to do, and a friend of mine, a classmate, had me join her and her family while I tried desperately to get a hold of my parents. Either one of them.
People always saw a star. I only saw a mother who was never there. People know Shirley MacLaine as a screen icon, a woman who captivated the world with intelligence, charm, and a belief in past lives. But no one has heard about the Shirley MacLaine of a broken home, the secrets buried behind dazzling roles. In the expanded memoir, Lucky Me: The Truth Untold, Saatchi promises to reveal what her mother never wanted the world to know, from an open marriage with businessman Steve Parker to power-laden gatherings where politics and desire intertwined, to the terrifying loneliness of a child left behind in Europe. Her voice caught when she recalled a memory from age 14, a memory no child should carry. When I was 14, the same age my daughter is now, I was left at a fancy boarding school in Europe. No one came to get me. I sat in the lobby watching every parent arrive until only I was left. Luckily, a classmate let me stay at her home while I desperately called my family, and nobody picked up. That is where the story begins, where the cracks in a legend show through, where Shirley MacLaine's only daughter tells what Hollywood never wanted to hear: the truth about the harsh mother behind one of American cinema's brightest symbols.
I am more than I seem, others are more than they seem, and I can certainly tend to accept more multidimensional aspects.
In a conversation lasting more than 3 hours, Saatchi didn't cry. But every sentence was like a needle piercing the mask Hollywood had worshipped for decades. I wasn't born into a broken family, she said slowly, but into a family that never truly existed. And that was when the story unfolded, about a childhood framed in perfect photographs, about a mother who lived for the spotlight more than for the child she brought into the world, and about a father mentioned only when financial scandal struck. From here, Saatchi began to speak, not as a witness, but as a child finally brave enough to face the house she once feared to enter. 1. They praised Shirley MacLaine for her light, but to her daughter that very light only exposed a kind of loneliness the world refused to see. From a distance, the villa on the Hollywood Hills looked like a dream: white walls, gleaming glass, a blue pool reflecting the California sun. But to Saatchi, an 8-year-old with sad brown eyes, it wasn't a home. It was a stage where everyone performed, and only she sat as the silent audience. Mornings in the Parker house always began with silence. The housekeeper set out 2 cups of coffee no one drank. Steve Parker left before dawn, and Shirley, the mother admired across America, came down the stairs with sunglasses and a hint of Chanel passing by her daughter, as if she were only a reflection on the floor. In a house so large that footsteps echoed, Saatchi learned to talk to herself. She ate alone, played alone, and returned from school to an empty space. She spent hours drawing in the living room colorful pictures of 3 people at a dinner table smiling brightly. She believed that if she drew beautifully enough, her mother would keep one and hang it on the wall. But whenever she left a drawing on the desk by morning, it had vanished with the rest of the discarded paper. Every afternoon when the doorbell rang, her heart leapt with hope. She ran to the door thinking her mother had come home. But instead of the Chanel scent she loved, it was the driver or the mailman. When Shirley finally appeared late, hurried and cool, Saatchi still tried to smile and reached out her hands. But her mother only bent slightly, placed a hand on her shoulder, and said in a rehearsed tone, "You need to learn to be independent, Saatchi. I'm very busy. I work for you." Then she left again, walking straight to her room to change for an interview, a party, or another shoot. And then she was gone. Dinner was just the girl and a cold table. In that house where bright light reached every corner, love was the one thing that never showed up. Every night, Sachi went to bed early, pulled the blanket over her head, and listened to the wind sweep past the window frame. She thought her mother might come in and kiss her forehead like the mothers she saw on screen. But the door never opened. Sometimes the German housekeeper Greta quietly cracked the door, set a glass of milk on the table, and whispered, "Sleep well, little miss." The girl nodded, managed a faint smile. In the dark, the pendulum clock ticked, the only sound proving the house was still alive. Sachi loved her father the way a lonely child loves anyone who listens. Steve Parker was seldom home, but whenever he appeared, she felt safe. He would lift her up, take her to the park, buy vanilla ice cream, and call her Little Star. Though rare, those moments were enough for Sachi. Then everything shattered one summer afternoon. Sachi was sitting on the stairs when she heard her mother shouting from the living room. The sound of things breaking, hurried footsteps, then choked sobs. She ran down and saw her mother standing in the middle of the room, hands trembling, waving a stack of bank statements. "You sent my money to that woman." On the floor, Steve bowed his head. His voice was hoarse and so soft that Sachi couldn't make out the words. Her mother shoved the table hard. Papers flew everywhere, landing at Sachi's feet. One page bore a smear of red lipstick and someone's signature in Japanese. Sachi had never seen her mother like that. The woman always poised on TV with a confident smile was now yelling and smashing as if she wanted to grind the world to dust. Then she broke down. But those tears weren't for her child. They were for her wounded pride. When her father moved to embrace her, she pushed him away, voice tight but unyielding. "I don't need you. I don't need anyone." He tried to speak, but she turned away. The door slammed, leaving Sachi frozen in a shattered room. That night, she heard her parents arguing in the bedroom. Their voices faded, then dissolved into silence. By morning, her father was gone. Her mother sat calmly at the mirror, applying makeup, her face flawless and dry. When Sachi asked Mom, "Where did Dad go?" she answered briefly, "To his place." And you shouldn't ask more. A week later, the press reported that Shirley MacLaine and Steve Parker had separated. Photos showed her beaming at a party, flashbulbs blazing her smile, suggesting no storm had ever touched her life. But for Sachi, the house now held only the sound of emptiness. She sat by the window watching her mother step into the car, the red dress flaring, high heels tapping. Not once did she look back. In the days that followed, her mother still came home, still brought gifts, still asked in a detached tone how things were, but never stayed long enough to hear the answers. Sachi learned not to cry. She understood that tears only annoyed her mother. Once, when she burst into tears at dinner, Shirley set down her fork and stared. "You must be stronger, Sachi. No one survives on tears." That sentence echoed in her head whenever night fell, whenever she lay listening to the wind along the eaves. Then the official divorce day came. The press covered it, neighbors whispered, classmates stared with curiosity. But Sachi felt only emptiness. She stood on the stairs and watched her mother walk out the door, hair swept up, red lips aface without a trace of tears. To the reporters, she said, "I believe in freedom. Every woman deserves to be herself." Her 8-year-old daughter stood by the doorway, fists clenched on the banister, quietly whispering, "I only need a mother, not freedom." No one heard. In the years that followed, the world saw Shirley MacLaine radiant on screen, confident in interviews, speaking passionately about women's rights and the art of living alone. But Sachi remembered another mother, the one who always turned her back. "She never looked me in the eye," Sachi said. "Each time I came closer, she stepped away." I think maybe she was afraid that if she looked long enough, she'd see in my eyes everything she'd lost. Years later, when Sachi was grown, someone asked if she ever resented her mother. She gave a faint smile. No, I don't resent her. I only regret that she never knew what it means to be a mother. And when the studio lights shone on a face now marked by time, Sachi spoke the final line, soft as a breath but resonant. My family used to be a stage, and I all my life was the forgotten audience. Yet, while a small daughter waited for a word of affection, that mother, Shirley MacLaine, was busy in another world, a world of influence, backstage handshakes, and secrets Hollywood never dared to tell. 2. Sometimes I think my mother didn't love anyone at all. She loved influence, the thing that makes people look at her with admiration. Hollywood, 1967. When night fell, the city lit up like a party that never ended. Luxury cars lined Sunset Boulevard, where every open door led to a different story of fame, attraction, and politics. Sachi Parker was only 11 then, but she already understood that her mother was the kind of person who walked through every door. In those years, Shirley MacLaine was not only an actress, she was a symbol of free womanhood, someone who dared to say what others feared, who sat with the most powerful men in America. The press wrote about her with reverence, but Sachi in the vast house on the hill knew that those nights weren't just political discussions, as her mother claimed. She remembered clearly the first evening she realized something was off. It was a March night. The villa gleamed with light. Her mother prepared for an intimate gathering, men in black suits, women with tailor-made smiles. She helped Greta, the German housekeeper, set out glasses and napkins. Passing by, she heard Greta whisper to the gardener, "This time there are people from Washington. She truly knows how to keep herself in the game." The words made Sachi pause. People from Washington to an 11-year-old, the phrase sounded distant and haunting. From the second-floor balcony, Sachi looked down at the living room where her mother stood among the crowd, radiant in a red dress with matching lips. She laughed, leaned in, and clinked glasses with a salt-and-pepper-haired man Sachi recognized from the papers, a well-known senator on the campaign trail. Everyone watched them smiling, speaking in tones no one would dare repeat aloud. She didn't understand everything, but she felt something was wrong, a vague unease she couldn't name. When the gathering ended and the guests had left, Sachi still heard her mother on the phone in the study. Her voice was low, quick, and controlled. "You must keep your word, Senator. If I help you appear to the media as a man of the people, I need my place secured on that upcoming committee." A pause. Then her mother's laugh, soft but cool. Sachi stood in the hallway, fingers trembling against the wall. She had never heard her mother speak like that, not like an artist, but like someone bargaining her soul with influence. From that day on, everything looked different. Whenever her mother traveled, she would say it was for a conference on equality, an inspiring speaking tour. But in a desk drawer, Sachi found typed letters stamped by the Office of the Prime Minister of Canada. Others bore the signature of Olof Palme, the Prime Minister of Sweden. One letter was brief. "Thank you for a wonderful evening. We'll talk about policy later." Below the line was a smudged lipstick mark. She told no one. But at night, studying in her room, she would hear her mother on the phone, the sound of laughter threaded with calculation. "You know, if Pierre Trudeau wants my public support, he has to ensure my film's distribution in Montreal. Washington needs intelligent women, not ornaments. And I know how to make them need me." Sometimes her voice softened, honey-sweet. "You understand, Olaf, we live by the same ideals. Only the meeting points differ." The little girl curled up behind the door, heart pounding to the point of breathlessness. She didn't grasp the full meaning, but she knew her mother wasn't speaking to friends, she was speaking to men who could tilt the world. Once on a trip to New York, Sachi happened to see her mother with an unfamiliar man. They came out of the Essex House Hotel hand in hand, heads bowed against the flash. The next day, the New York Post ran the photo with a small headline Hollywood star and Europe's mystery statesman, friendship or influence. When Sachi brought the paper to ask, Shirley just gave a cool smile, glanced at it, crumpled it, and tossed it in the bin. Don't believe the press, darling. They don't understand me. But Sachi understood. Better than anyone, she knew her mother didn't need to be understood, she needed to be seen. Sometimes when rumors swirled, Shirley appeared on television smiling radiantly and speaking about women's spiritual mission in a new era. And Sachi, sitting before the TV, saw only a stranger talking about freedom while bound tightly to a craving for influence. She began to remember all the nights she sat outside the living room, listening to clinking glasses, music blended with sharp laughter. She remembered a guest drunk asking her mother in the middle of the crowd, "Shirley, do you belong to Hollywood or Washington?" Her mother curled her lips and answered without hesitation, "Both, and neither can do without me." Laughter burst out loud, cutting, but Sachi, standing on the stairs, felt only cold. In 1970, after Watergate, many political names fell. At the same time, Shirley suddenly announced a film project funded by a mysterious foundation rumored to be backed by a close friend in Washington. When reporters asked about the source of the funds, she replied, "Some things don't need to be said. What matters is that the work serves the public." Sachi read the article in silence. Inside, she felt both shame and pity. Pity because her mother was trying to prove something. Shame because she knew the price of those unsaid things. In the years that followed, Shirley sank deeper into that world where politics, intimacy, and philosophy blended into a bitter mix. Sachi once wrote, "My mother wasn't dependent on alcohol nor on men. She was dependent on the feeling of being needed. And to be needed, she was willing to trade everything, even her daughter." Now looking back, Sachi says what hurt her most wasn't the rumors, but the nights she stood outside the door listening to her mother laugh on the phone with someone she'd never met. Each laugh was like a blade. It gradually cut away the image of a mother I once believed in. They said Shirley MacLaine knew too much about Washington, about connections, about unrecorded secrets. But Sachi knew there was one thing her mother never understood. No gathering, no matter how grand, can fill the emptiness of a child waiting for her mother to come home. The story of those gatherings, the places history never records, is not just the scandal of a star, but the testimony of a daughter watching her mother trade love for influence. And while the world hailed her as a free woman, Sachi Parker remembered a different figure, a woman sitting alone in a late-night room speaking to unknown men in a whispering voice, both alluring and unsettling. "They say my mother searched for truths of past lives," she said in a 2025 interview. "As for me, all my life, I've only wanted to find the mother who disappeared in this one." While the world celebrates her as powerful, awakened, and free, a child across the ocean still sits waiting for a postcard that never came. 3. Every birthday had a cake, but never a mother. Switzerland, winter of 1968. The sky blanketed in gray mist, hills buried in white snow. On the outskirts of Lausanne, the boarding school nestled in a pine forest, quiet, strict, and so perfect, it was frightening. It was here that 12-year-old Sachi Parker began to understand what it meant to be politely abandoned. In the morning, the bell rang at 6. The children tumbled out of bed, chirping about letters from home, birthday presents, or family photos sent from America. Only Sachi sat quietly by the window frame watching snowflakes fall slowly like shards of broken time. She had never received a single letter. No postcard, no greeting, not even a small gift. Only an old pair of wool gloves the school matron kindly gave her because that American girl seems to be forgotten by everyone. Every year on her birthday, the boarding school kitchen set aside a small cake for each student, what Sachi called the cake for children without mothers. She ate slowly, trying to imagine the scene where her mother would open the doorstep in, pull her into an embrace, and laugh, "My girl has really grown." But the dormitory door only opened for the teacher, the one who checked lights out, not for dreams. Every birthday I had cake, but I never had my mother. Her roommates often asked, "Is your mother very busy?" Sachi just smiled and nodded. Busy filming, busy living. She never admitted that sometimes she wished her mother could be a little less busy, so she would remember she had a daughter. Christmas 1970. Lausanne lay under deep snow. The dorm closed, students went home. Only Sachi and a few orphaned girls stayed behind. She sat for 3 days by the dining room window holding a slip of paper with her mother's address. Each time a car sounded at the gate, she sprang up, heart pounding. But it was only a delivery man or a stranger passing through. By the afternoon of the third day, the matron brought in a small envelope. Inside, there was no letter, only a telegram: "I'm filming in Paris. Love you, Shirley." No promise, no return date. She sat for a long time, staring at those cold words until the ink blurred with her tears. People said Shirley MacLaine sent her daughter to Europe to protect her from Hollywood pressure, a refined way to say abandonment. She said the Western environment would teach her daughter independence culture and the spirit of freedom. But Sachi understood what her mother truly wanted was a life untroubled by the call of mom. While Shirley traveled the world, India, Nepal, Japan, in search of truths from past lives, her daughter sat in a cold dorm wishing only for an embrace in this life. In 1972, the press ran Shirley's photo on the cover of Time magazine with the bold headline, "The Woman Who Owns Herself." Sachi saw that image in the school library, the heavy type striking straight into her heart. The woman beaming in a white dress was her mother, but among the hundreds of photos taken by reporters, not one showed her daughter. She remembered the only time she went back to America for summer break. Her mother greeted her at LAX with a hurried smile, a light hug, then immediately said, "I only have 2 days, honey. I'm writing a new book. I want you to see this about the soul, about the journey to reclaim the self." In those 2 days, she took her to a film set to meet directors, reporters, and strangers. No one asked if the girl was tired. No one noticed that amid the laughter, Sachi sat tucked in a corner picking at cold food. That night in the hotel, she heard her mother on the phone, voice gleaming with excitement. "I believe I once lived in Atlantis. Maybe I was a dancer there." And Sachi, the daughter she had left in Switzerland, quietly wondered, if my mother has lived many lives, why can't she live this one with me? By 1974, Sachi had learned to be angry. She no longer waited for letters, no longer hoped that each winter someone would call her name from the list of students going home. She studied harder, grew quieter, smiled less. When teachers asked about her parents, she only said, "They're very busy." Once in art class, she was assigned the theme family. She drew a woman standing center stage before a sea of applause. In the corner of the picture, a child sat silently holding a ticket to the show. When she turned it in, the teacher looked for a long time, then asked, "Who is this little girl?" "The daughter of the person on stage." "Is she happy?" She once thought she was. At 18, Sachi left Switzerland for Japan, where her father was living. But between father and daughter, there were only stretches of silence. He had someone new, a new life. And Shirley across the Pacific kept traveling the world, still speaking of freedom, karma, and past lives. In 1981, Sachi decided to return to America, partly because she missed home, partly because she hoped that after all those years, her mother had changed. But when she entered the Santa Monica apartment, the door was opened not by her mother but by an assistant. Shirley was on a flight to New York for The Tonight Show. She only managed to leave a note. "I'm so glad you're back. Do what you want, but don't depend on anyone." On the dining table lay a folded newspaper with a bold headline, "Shirley MacLaine, the woman who needs no one." Sachi looked at it and smiled a bitter smile. In the following years, the press began to praise Shirley as a spiritually awakened star. They said she'd found peace, love, and enlightenment. But Sachi knew better than anyone that this peace was built upon the emptiness in other people's hearts. "People say my mother sought truths from past lives. I just want an embrace in this one." The interviewer fell silent at that line. Sachi did not cry. Tears could not ease a lost childhood. She only looked into the distance, her voice steady, as if telling someone else's story I don't resent. But I've learned sometimes one person's success is another person's tragedy. Today, in retrospect, people still speak of Shirley MacLaine as an icon, a woman who dared to live differently, think differently, be free. But to Sachi, each time she hears that name, she still feels cold. Not from Switzerland's snow, but from the emptiness of forgotten birthdays, Christmases with no one coming home, and a mother who existed only on screen, never in real life. 4. When Shirley MacLaine walked onto a set, the lights got brighter, but no one felt warmer. That's what a set assistant said almost in a whisper after Shirley left the soundstage with her measured steps. He likely didn't mean to speak ill, just to vent the tension that had been compressed for weeks. Because to them, Shirley wasn't an ordinary performer. She was Hollywood's small storm, and each time she appeared, the air seemed to thicken, waiting for something to explode. On set, Shirley accepted no misalignment. She entered each scene as if it were a sacred rite. Everything had to be right light, angle, breath, even a partner's gaze. If the light fell slightly off, she would lift her head, her eyes sharp as glass, and say softly, making the whole crew hold its breath, "I won't perform when the light doesn't understand me." People joked that even the light feared her because at the slightest frown, the entire tech team would adjust equipment as if awaiting a high priestess's decree. In 1979, during a change of seasons, director Richard Lang once had to leave the set mid-shoot. For a brief scene of 3 lines, Shirley demanded 14 takes. "Your eyes aren't true," she told her scene partner, "and if the eyes aren't true, nothing on screen is." When Lang snapped that he was the one directing, she simply replied, "No. Here only the character directs me." Her calm was so complete that no one knew whether to be angry or impressed. On terms of endearment, her presence kept the whole crew on tiptoe. Deborah Winger, her co-star, once teased by letting out a rude noise in the middle of an emotional scene just to break the beat. The take was halted, and Shirley stayed silent for 2 days. Not because she was angry, but because she was trying to decode the behavior I need to understand human feeling to act more truthfully, she said afterward, leaving people unsure whether to laugh or step back. A supporting actor once said, "She told me to smile with my eyes, but those very eyes were what made me shake." Anthony Hopkins, who worked with her on the same film later, said that Shirley controlled everything like a director without a camera. The line carried no malice. He merely stated a fact: Shirley didn't believe in chance. She believed in control. For her, art couldn't be a gamble. If art is truth, she once said, then truth must be controlled. And so she controlled everything, light angles, sound, the rhythm of others' breathing, yet she never managed to control herself. Asked about this, Sachi Parker only gave a wry smile. My mother controlled the light and other people, but never herself. To Sachi, what the world called talent was truly fear of failure in disguise. Shirley feared letting others see her frailty. She feared being revealed as a woman who behind the lights was simply lonely, afraid of being forgotten, of aging, of not being needed. After the final shot of Terms of Endearment, when the crew gathered to celebrate, Shirley sat alone on the darkened set. A young technician passed by and saw her holding a golden globe, gently wiping the dust from its face as she murmured as if to herself, "No light has ever really understood me." No one knew whether she meant art or life, but perhaps both were true. For even under Hollywood's brightest lamps, she never found a light warm enough to illuminate her own heart. 5. My mother never believed in death. She believed it was only a change of roles. But in this life, she never learned how to live fully in any of them. She believed she had once been a dancer in Atlantis, but never a mother in this lifetime. Those words spoken softly by Sachi still silenced the entire studio. Everyone there understood behind that calm tone lay not only disappointment, but the buried childhood of a girl lost beneath the dust of her mother's endless spiritual dreams. From the 1980s onward, while Hollywood was obsessed with action and glamour, Shirley MacLaine turned down a stranger, brighter, lonelier path. She wrote books, gave lectures, spoke about reincarnation and karma. She claimed she had been a Moroccan gypsy, a Turkish dancer had drowned when Atlantis sank, then returned to finish the soul's unfinished lessons. Time magazine in 1987 called her Hollywood's spiritualized icon. Critics called her the woman who left Earth without dying. In her Santa Fe home in the mid-1990s, Shirley lived like a mystic. Everything around her shimmered with otherworldly charm crystals, wine chimes, books on the soul candles burning through the night. Each morning she meditated for hours, believing she could hear her past lives whispering through the light. When Sachi came to visit, her mother smiled and said, "We've met many times before, darling, just in other lives." Sachi stood silent. Sometimes she thought if her mother had truly lived hundreds of lives, perhaps she had lived too many, so many that she'd forgotten how to be a mother in this one. The media celebrated Shirley as Hollywood's prophet. She appeared on talk shows to speak of soul travel guiding light and cosmic energy. People applauded, took notes, believed. But Sachi saw something else, a lonely woman trying to talk to spirits because there was no one left to talk to on Earth. "My mother wrote 12 books about reincarnation," Sachi said, "but not one about love." Once Sachi asked her, "If every soul returns to learn a lesson, what do you think yours is?" Shirley smiled, eyes distant, to learn how to let go. When Sachi told the story later, she sighed softly. I think her unfinished lesson was learning how to love someone for real. In later years, Shirley almost vanished from film, appearing only at spiritual conventions. Each time she held a microphone, she spoke about death as if telling a fairy tale. "I'm not afraid of dying," she said. "I'm just curious what role I'll play next." The audience laughed, mistaking her detachment for enlightenment. But when Sachi replayed that recording, all she heard was quiet sadness, a mother still talking to the world, but never to her child. The world praised Shirley MacLaine for being awakened. But Sachi knew no awakening is born from loneliness. Shirley may have believed she once danced through ancient lives, loved, drowned, and been reborn. Yet, in the only life she shared as her daughter, she never truly lived. Now, at 90, people still see Shirley MacLaine appear in public silver hair, glinting under stage lights, smiling serenely as if she has forgiven the world. But amid her tales of the next life, there sits another woman in silence, Sachi, who has never heard her mother say, "I'm sorry," never shared a full conversation in this lifetime. And perhaps while Shirley prepares for her next cosmic role, that daughter still holds one quiet wish that if reincarnation is real, then in the next life they will meet again, not as two souls, but as mother and child. Hollywood will forever remember Shirley MacLaine as a legend, the woman who dared to live differently, to defy convention, to speak of past lives as if they happened yesterday. But to Sachi Parker, that legend is only a name engraved on a door that never opened. A door leading into a house without laughter, without shared meals, without a single spoken birthday wish. Now at 69, the woman who was once the forgotten child beneath her mother's fame has finally chosen to speak. Not for revenge, nor to reclaim what was lost, but simply to breathe, to say, "I was there, and I survived." Yet one question remains: does telling the truth truly heal, or does it only make the old wound bleed again? Will there ever be a next life where these two women recognize each other not through camera lenses, not through headlines, but through a simple embrace? If you've ever believed that time heals all wounds, look into Sachi Parker's eyes when she speaks of her mother. Because sometimes time doesn't erase pain, it only teaches it how to smile. Thank you for watching to the end of this story. If you believe that behind every legend lies a shadow, share this video so more people can see the other side of the light, where there are no fireworks, only truth and hearts still waiting to be loved.